commend her because it takes some courage to get up in front of everybody and present. How many of you would feel comfortable doing that? And you learn and you grow that way when you kind of push yourself to do something you're maybe not comfortable with. Kathy's work she works in oils. It's beautiful. She does mostly landscapes, it appears. And the thing that surprised me about her work is a lot of it she makes up out of her head. She's not using photo references all the time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So go for it.
All right, I'm passing around the handout that's coming around. It's got my website and my various other venues that I sell online. And then on the other page in the back is a whole list of artists that I admire. You can learn a lot just by looking at other people's art and seeing what strikes you as attractive. And I would recommend it. And just look at everybody's art, immerse yourself in it, and what you love will be something that you might want to be doing similar stuff like that. So anyway, I have a little presentation. Maybe, is everybody hearing me okay? I know acoustics are pretty bad in here. I grew up on a dairy farm. My parents had about 45 milking registered air share cattle, and we raised all the young cattle. We lived in a steep little hollow called Farrington Hollow near Cherry Creek, New York, which is the last county before you fall into Lake Erie. We were about 12 miles up over the hill from Lake Erie in what they call the Allegheny Plateau. Beautiful farm country, beautiful woods, very steep hills, home, you know, that was like home. That's where I grew up, spent 18 years there. I'm extremely visually oriented kind of person, and I delight in laying those pretty colors down. I still love it like a little kid. I love to lay the colors down, and I'm pretty much self-taught too. Except for one thing maybe, my mother had a degree in animal husbandry from Cornell University. She was the farmer, more so than my father. I mean, they both were into cows and they did all dedicated farmers. But she had taken an art elective course at Cornell University while she was there. And up in the cupboard in the kitchen, she had rolled up pictures that she had done, drawings of cattle, drawings of cougars, drawings of different kind of animals all rolled up there. So when my sister and I were, we were entertaining ourselves drawing and things. My little sister and I, she would show us how to do things like perspective, how to shade and make things look 3D. So that was, a wonderful thing to know. We knew that stuff earlier than the other kids in school, so I became known as the class artist, and so did my sister by the time we were in 5th and 6th grade. So there's nothing like self-fulfilling prophecy. Kids tend to live up to the expectations of what people expect of them, or down too. They also live down to them. So after high school, we didn't have a dime. My parents were farmers. We didn't have any money. I wanted to go to art school. I wanted to be an art teacher. And the nearest university with an art program was in Buffalo, which was 75 miles due north of us. So I never did that. I got a cashier's job, got married, had a couple of kids, and got on with my life. And so when my kids were babies, I used to watch PBS shows. William Alexander was there. If any of you heard of him, Magic of Oil Painting was on PBS. And I used to watch him. It'd take him 22 minutes, and he could do a whole painting in 22 minutes. And I just loved to watch that show. That was before Bob Ross came along. Bob Ross wasn't even heard of yet. Tells you how old I am. So I painted pictures for my own walls. I did a bit of sign work. If you look in my little booklets over here, painting on race cars, painting on signs for people, things on the side like that one, raising my children. Painted a lot of pictures for my own walls. And then, let's see, where was I? We had a mobile service station. We sold gasoline, we had tow service, we had mechanic shop, we had everything, my husband and I. I was the bookkeeper, that was my night job. But anyway, my last one, when my youngest went to kindergarten, I decided to take a course at the local community college. And one at a time, while the kids were little, I took a bunch of courses and got my associate's degree. And then I transferred to State University of New York at Fredonia, which is a 30-mile commute over the hill and down to Lake Erie, and got my bachelor's degree in English literature and English education, secondary ed. So then I was a substitute teacher for about 5 years. But before we moved to Myrtle Beach, never did manage to land a job, which I wouldn't have had time to have a job anyway, considering how much we had to do with our business. And we moved to Myrtle Beach in 1997. Retired, sold the business, sold our house. It was time to get out of the deep snow and try something different. Kids were grown, they were out of school, it was time to go. I went to Myrtle Beach, and my husband worked at Beach Ford for 20 years, and I did clerical work for several places. I was office manager at One Source Communications. Learned a lot about computers with that kind of a job, which was been very helpful. And I also painted at night. I used to make great big acrylic seascapes. I would build my own stretchers, buy canvas at Walmart, staple them on, just like this one, that size or a little bigger, and schlep them around to the galleries. There was a good gallery up in Calabash, North Carolina, and there was a really good gallery down in Pawleys Island, and then there was a few little ones in between. And, there's nothing like sales to make you want to paint more pictures. It's such a thrill when you sell things that you want to paint more pictures, and so I did that. And in 2011, I applied for an arts grant from Horry County, and I was doing acrylic paintings. This is an acrylic one behind you here. I was doing that kind of paintings in acrylic, and I said, I want to try oil paints. I haven't used them in years, and so I'm going to try some oil paints. So I landed $800 for the grant, and I spent almost $600 of it on oil paints. Winsor & Newton, top of the line stuff. Ordered them off from Cheap Joe's and got them, and then built canvases. And the Horry County Arts Council office up in Little River has one of my big three-piecers. You'll see them in my scrapbooks here. And I have one for my own house, which is a big three-piece scene from Marine Gardens in Little River. If you've ever been, it's a beautiful park up there. Walking trails, marsh, awesome place to go. And then the digital age comes along. I love digital cameras. I love photography. I used to take pictures at the beach all the time because I lived a half a mile off the beach. I could go stand outside my garage and look over towards the sky in the east. And if there was a whole lot of clouds, just high drama. I was going to have some really good pictures. Put my camera on and walk over to the beach before I go to work in the morning, watch the sunrise, chase the gulls up and down the beach. It's cool. And if there wasn't any drama, just clear skies, just walk in the neighborhood, forget it. But in 2011, no, that was right after that, I joined Etsy. I set up my own art website there to sell my little pictures. I was painting a lot of chickadees. I also set up Fine Art Studio online. I set up my own personal website. Todd knows he's got one. Some of you might have such a place. It's a great place to keep your inventory, keep everything square so you know what's sold, what's not, load up your new paintings. I pay $30 a month for it, and I think it's been well worth it. It helps you keep track of everything. And you gotta be organized if you're gonna start selling stuff, you really do. But I love the internet. I'm so glad the internet's there. Nobody would see any of my paintings otherwise. And Etsy started selling gradually. I rarely sold anything. It's so hard, you get lost. There's so many artists out there. But Etsy, I was getting some little sales. I was breaking even anyway. And so we went to when we moved up to, just before we moved up to Rock Hill here, I had retired in 2016, and boy, that was a year when I painted a lot of pictures because I was home and I could paint. Instead of in the middle of the night, I could paint anytime. But I joined Saatchi Art and I joined Art Finder, two other online venues. They take 35 and 42% respectively, those two places. So I gotta bump my prices up when I list them there, but you know, I'm glad of a digital camera. You can take your pictures, people can see them, and they're confident to buy them online. And as you go, you get more, every sale leads to more sales. I think people really have confidence in you when you can sell and get all this praise from people, which is wonderful. We moved up here to Myrtle Beach, or from Myrtle Beach to Rock Hill to be near the grandkids after we retired. I convinced my husband to retire from Beach Ford. And shortly after I moved here, I got all this inventory. My son says, try eBay, Mom, try eBay. So I'll put some on eBay. I started listing them on eBay. And I thought, that's just gonna be lowball offers. Nobody's gonna, it's cheapening my value. I'm gonna give them away. I'm gonna get all this inventory. I gotta know what to do with it. I gotta sell some. Over 50% of the people that I sell on eBay, they're giving me full fixed price off. They're giving me full fixed price. And if I get offers, they're not far from it, the price. So sometimes I accept them, and the counter offers get accepted. Sometimes not. I don't worry about it because other people will buy them. I've had them sell to somebody else 3 weeks later. Doesn't matter. But anyway, eBay has surpassed Etsy by 4 times. Really, I'm much more successful selling on eBay. I don't make a lot of money. I don't charge a lot of money for my paintings, which probably is a dismay to some of the galleries and stuff. They think, oh, they should be a whole lot more expensive. Mine might be 1/10 of what a gallery would charge when I'm selling them. So I'm not going to get rich at doing it, but I love doing it. And there's been a few years where I've been in the red, but most of the years I'm either breaking even or going above. And then the pandemic came along, sales bloomed like crazy online. And I think I made almost between $4,000 and $5,000 in 2021. In 2022, it just finished the year, about $4,600 net income after expenses. So, and of course, I had all the experience being a bookkeeper for many years for the service station. So I'm organized and I keep track of everything. It's terrible. It's an obsession now, right? I can't stress again how grateful I am for the internet. The internet is how we can get out there and spread our art around to the whole world. And I love to watch YouTube videos of other people painting. And I love to go to gallery websites and look at the paintings there. And just in awe of some of the amazing artists. Now the handout that I sent around has got some of my favorites and things that I like on there. Everybody should paint what they like. I'm all about realism. I'm not a fan of abstract art, really. I'm sorry about that, abstract people. But I don't like photorealism because I don't want it to look like a photo. I want it to be more painterly. I want it to look like a painting. I'm all about nature, spending my first 18 years growing up in the woods. And you can't see anybody else's houses. It's just quiet woods and fields and farms. I love winter trees against the sky. I love blue skies. I love mountains. A lot of my paintings look similar. You might notice if you go on my website. I have to put inventory codes on the back to keep them track of, and I run out of title ideas, but anyway, I've got a lot of inventory built up. And it's certainly a great big thrill when somebody buys my paintings. I'm blessed and I'm so thankful that I could sell my original artwork. So anyway, today I'm thinking I'm gonna demo I'm gonna start a mountain scene. You start with the sky. The sky is the most fabulous, once you get a good sky and everything else kind of falls into place. A lot of my canvases are just, it's a piece of mat board and I glue a piece of canvas to it and then I prime it with gesso or sometimes flat oil paint, white oil paint. but I've got a frame for this, so I'm making it for my own purposes. So I buy my frames in the secondhand stores, go to the thrift shops, you buy a frame, you take out whatever's in it, or throw away the glass. I'm always throwing away glass, and keeping the frame itself, and then make sure you've got something to put it in, because odd sizes, you can make a lot of odd sizes that way. I was never into worrying about archival either. This was from 1968 when I was a kid. Pass that around. It's a sheet taped to cardboard. Not taped, actually. It's the wallpaper paste glue that's trying to make a flower in water. And I've got a couple like that. This is one of them I brought. But I was saving my old kid art when I was a kid. But 1968, what was I, 14? Yeah, it's a picture from one of the brochures about Finger Lakes and sailing. So you can pass that around. There's a bunch of little pretties that I brought. Send them around. Send some of them around. People can look at them. I probably brought way more than I should. I've got other web cards here. There's oil paintings. This one's actually an acrylic painting. I mounted it on a piece of acrylic on paper, and you mount it on the tag board. So you can send them.
How do you price your paintings?
Usually a 5x7 is 75, and if it's got a frame, 85. It's kind of a square inch formula where you say, okay, it's $1.25 a square inch, but when they get that small, they take almost as long as some of the big ones too.
Right.
So, but 8x10 is $135 without the frame, $150 with the frame, kind of thing. And then the sizes go up according to whatever. Thrift shops are getting filled with people who do the, you buy a canvas print of something, and they throw it out, put gesso on it, put a thing on it, and what do you know? I've got a nice canvas, and I don't have to go to the store. And I've got the edge, so you can just paint on the edge of them, and it's ready to hang. No place.
Oh, no, that's nice. Do you glaze them before? Do you glaze them?
I used to do a lot of chickadees. I still do, but they used to be how I paid my wall rent at the gallery in Pawleys Island, because $100 a quarter, I could pretty much be sure a pair of chickadees would sell for $100, and there I've got my wall rent paid. So then she could sell my big stuff. So I pass them around. Do a little marsh scenes. Little stickies coming off of that. Little marsh paintings. That was probably also a canvas print at some point. More little pretties going around. You find frames like this in the thrift store. I get excited. I love these beautiful little frames. I got to paint something to put in it. So that's what I ended up doing. Some really pretty little frames for $1 or $2. I've painted with texture. I'll put a little texture under there, and that makes it look a little different. It makes it vibrant. Mimi knows about how texture works. It's safe to touch it. No big deal.
So the majority of these are the oils.
Mostly oils, yeah. This is an oil painting. Got the frame with the liner already on it. Put it together. Put the painting in there. I don't know if you want to. You have something that big long? Painted this last week at Paint with Friends. Went home and finished it off, and I had this frame that I bought for $3 at one of the thrift shops. It's ready to sell for $150. Well, with a frame this heavy and the price of shipping, I put $169 on it, and maybe it'll go. You never know.
That frame looks pretty with that.
Do you varnish your paintings?
I used to put Gambar varnish on, but I haven't done that in quite a while because it doesn't seem to make that much difference unless I really need to bring out the dark colors.
Okay.
Some I do, some I don't. what it used to be. So, I do something other than landscapes once in a while. I did a whole series of Madonnas, Madonna and child kind of paintings, which is one of the two that I've got left. This was acrylic. Pass that around if you want. Something different. Anyway. Anybody wants to look through the scrapbooks up here? Out of the way. So today I was gonna demo, so I guess I should get to work, put some paint on. Usually put a little, if I'm not standing up, I'll put this on my lap, because you never fails. I'll lose the cap of the paint will fall there, the brush will fall, I'll have paint all over. So. At least for painting with friends, no, I paint pretty fast. I can go really fast when I'm painting, and I'm mixing it right on the canvas for the most part. Start with a big brush, work towards a smaller brush, and this is probably smaller than I need. And for my cleaning my brushes, I use a little, Palm's cocoa butter cream. The main ingredient is mineral oil. Conditions your brushes, cleans the paint off, and also, cleans the paint off your hands and everything. No turpentine, no nasty, smelly stuff. Just paint. I don't thin it with anything. I just go right at it. Reach up there. I might have to stand up and get everybody's way. Atmospheric wise, it's darker blue top, and it fades out to light colors down below. And sometimes they get a little cooler in the distance. Up here, I have big puffy clouds. In the distance, you're going to have little tiny, soft, distant clouds, so they'll look like that. And I've painted so many of the little mountain scenes and skies that I don't have to look at a reference photo, but sometimes I do. Like that one I was working on with the snow in the woods. That was a chance. I would have brought it, but it's not quite all the way dry yet. It's pretty wet.
Did you ever try to paint watercolors?
I've done watercolors, but I don't really care for them too much because they're too messy. I don't know. When I sit down with my granddaughter and paint, I'll let her play with acrylics or watercolors or whichever I've gotten, and she'll make her thing, and I'll make comes out as pine trees and lakes and stuff. It comes out like the woods. You should paint what you love.
Now, the medium you're using, does it cause the paint to dry faster or does not?
I'm not using any medium
You're just using straight paint?
straight paint.
Okay.
Yeah. Very pink.
What color blue is that? What color?
Really?
Just cobalt blue for sky. I've got a lighter blue over here.
You're using a fan type brush, but it's pretty thick, your brush. It's a thick fan brush. I haven't seen
Yeah, it's kind of, they're pretty worn down, but I never like to throw out my brushes until there's one hair left.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it has a lot of bristles on it. Usually fan brushes are
Yeah,
thin.
and as they wear, they get softer and they work better.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you're starting to paint, you want to figure out whether the light is coming from the left or the right, or behind you, or in front of you. It's work that way too. Just a little marker up here. A lot of my paintings have a pathway in, a reflection, something that draws the eye towards the distance. You want to, rule of thirds too. You want to have it nothing centered unless you're just doing a cameo kind of thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be centered. You heard of the golden ratio, where things get smaller and draw your eye into the painting. That's what they're talking about when they like the rule of thirds. So you want to have composition is really important. That's the first thing that you need to be aware of. If the composition doesn't work, then the painting's not going to work.
Kathy, when you're working on your skies and your clouds, do you have a set vision in your head, or are you improvising?
Sometimes I just paint and see what develops. Well, and then it'll turn into something. Sometimes I have the whole painting in my head, or if I'm working on it with a photograph, I'm not afraid to throw this out if I don't want it, or something in there I don't want, to make the composition look a little better.
Do you tone your paintings at all?
No, I'm basically going straight onto the white canvas. And this is got gesso on it. Other than that, don't usually do that. Sometimes I'll put texture in. I like a nice grip on the texture. If it's too smooth, the paint floats around. I like making my own canvases because the texture and the tooth is so much better. You buy a canvas at Michael's and it's been glazed or something already. The paint floats around on top and doesn't stick, and it just gives you, it irritates me to have it, not stick right. So I prefer to make my canvases like this rather than buy ready-made sometimes, because they're quite different.
Is there a special type of glue you use to make your canvases?
I'm just using the glue, Tight Bond 3 waterproof glue from Home Depot or Lowe's. Spread it out with a big brush and cut the canvas to fit and lay it out there. Smooth it down. And it's been working good. That's how you can make paintings fit the frame that you found. I can give the clouds a little more depth. Sometimes I'll put a hint of yellow in so that the light's, brighter, sunnier in the afternoon. And sometimes I'm painting things that are, in the gloom or the sunset or moonrise. I love to see the moonrise too. It's beautiful stuff.
What yellow was that? Cat yellow? What yellow?
Hmm?
Which yellow are you using?
The color of yellow.
I haven't put any on yet, but it's just regular lemon yellow.
A lemon?
This is oils, so I think the colors in acrylic are very different. They just don't blend and mix the same way when you do it in acrylics because it's so different. Once I started using oil paints, I rarely go back to the acrylics. to make the clouds have a 3D effect, you want to have a little darker spots. Sometimes I'll put a little tiny hint of black in there to make it grayer, or gray-blue. There's been paintings where I've done very dramatic clouds that sometimes it's overdone, but you want it to be. Get the blue there, give some definition to the clouds. At this point, I'm thinking, which way is the sun coming from, one way or the other? You want to have some definition. Sometimes I'll go back later and I'll emphasize the whiteness in certain areas of the clouds. Like just getting the first layer down, it's a good thing to do.
Kathy, do you know what you're painting there? Is this going to be a mountain scene, a beach scene?
It's probably just gonna be a little mountain in the distance. I'd like to have a steep hill and usually a pine tree or something right here. Sometimes I'll do deciduous trees instead, but mostly it's dark pine trees. You know, I love them things and grew up behind a bunch of pine trees. I love to go to the mountains, love to go to Blue Ridge Parkway and take a ton of pictures, and I've got millions of reference photos I could use if I want to, but mostly I don't really need to use them. But I'm starting to get some. Clouds can be pretty abstract, you don't have to be real specific with a lot of that. And then down here at the bottom, it's pale, it's lighter if a horizon, and the clouds are smaller. It's called like aerial perspective, and things fade away. And the big clouds are up top, and the darker colors are up top. Start laying in some little mountains and other colors there. Just a little bit to start with. I'll do as much as I can with the big brush, and then when I get to the end, I'll do the little brush stuff. Start seeing some mountains in there. And as the mountains recede, they get paler. I want the mountains to, in the distance, to fade into the background. Get all this. I did a commission in December for a lady. She said, you know, it was a 5x7, little tiny commission. She sent me a picture that she had taken in Waynesville, a sunset and all the mountains going back layer by layer. And I painted that for her. It's $75 if you want the frame, 85. And she loved it. That's a different kind of, when you have the sunset, the value of the sky is brighter and the foreground is a whole lot darker. If this is the case where I'm painting the mountains, I can say, well, the sun's kind of coming from this way. I will take a big side of the mountain a little darker, like it might be getting hit by sun. Kind of shade it. Yeah, I'll put another little spot of the mountain up in there, it's faded. When you're doing mountains, it's always nice to put a little mist in there, make a little white layer so you can see where one mountain begins and the next mountain stops. And then, as you get closer, the trees get darker, more prominent. Still got some blue in there, because they're not that close yet. How am I doing for time? This one, if I'm planning to have trees over here, I don't wanna put them in the center, I wanna have them to one side or the other, because you want the eye to go down into the distance. Somewhere here is a good place to put a road, put the road or a path or a trail going in. Kinda wanna make it, kinda give it the perspective of
Kathy, I'm thinking probably about 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes.
Yeah, I know you won't finish it, obviously.
No, I won't
but-
finish it quite, but I'll give me another hour. Mix it right on the canvas, so touch it, touch the green, touch the blue, lay it in there. And as it comes closer into the foreground, the colors get warm. They'll warmer up a little bit. Be able to have them lighter and warmer. When I'm doing the pine tree down at the bottom, or whatever trees I'm gonna put in, I'm still conscious that the light's coming from one side or the other, and I'll have bright colors on one side and the shadow on the other. So that's how that would work. Any questions? I should stop now, probably.
You certainly make it look so easy.
I'm sorry.
You make it look effortless.
I've had a lot of years of practice. Everybody's on the same journey to improve their artwork, and I kind of get lazy because I keep repeating what sells. So if I'm repeating what sells, I'm getting lazy.
The way you painted the sky is wonderful.
Yeah.
What was the flavor of the sky you painted? Tiepolo? The Tiepolo was, Giovanni Tiepolo was the painter of the sky in Italy, the Renaissance.
Will you finish it and bring it back next meeting?
I could bring it to you, if you want, sure. It'll look kind of similar to a lot of the others that I've got here, but sure.
Yeah, but that one.
I know Fitty wanted to see the one with the snow when it was done.
Yeah.
I'll have to bring that over to Paint with Friends. So, yeah, I can bring it.
I will try it.
Now, when I go to clean my brush, I'm just pinching my old brush. I haven't even used anything but this one brush. Oil painting is so much different than watercolor. It's not much different from acrylic, but I can run my brush through this cocoa butter cream. And one of the ladies down in
Similar thing in acrylic. Would you paint that way in acrylics?
acrylics. I've done some acrylics.
No, but I mean, do you have the same approach to the sky, or is different?
Yeah, pretty much. Acrylics dry different. They have different colors when they dry. They're just
Right.
they're a bit different. This
Yeah,
one, this is an acrylic over here.
The green is the best.